Here we go, off the rails. But you know it's time to raise our sails. It's freedom like you never knew. Don't need bags or a pass. Say the word, I'll be there in a flash. You could say my hat is off to you. Oh, we can zoom all the way to the moon of this great wide wacky world. Jump with me, grab coins with me, oh yeah. It's time to jump up in the air. Jump up, don't be scared. Jump up and your cares will soar away. And if the dark clouds start to swirl, don't feel enchanted, 'cause I'll be your one-up girl.
We're here, another episode. This is episode 5 already.
And I'm making my appearance again. I'm back.
And you're back. And for anybody that's wondering, that's Rayanne. She's back. Ray. Sorry, Ray. I'm not allowed to call you Rayanne. Only your mother's allowed to call you Rayanne. I remember that from episode 1. It's just been so long since you've been on. I forgot the rules. Sorry.
Forgot my name or forgot the rules.
Little column A, little column B. So we have some great guests.
Yeah.
I say great guests every week. And it's because they're great guests every week. Every single week. First, we have FamilyJules coming on. His name is Jules. His channel name is Jules. That's his band name, but he's a one-man band. He's a one-man band man. Like Swiss Beats. So he's coming on, and he's going to talk about some of the stuff he's done. He does, like, video game covers and all this stuff, and he's a composer for video games. It's just video games all day.
He's got it all. He's doing it all.
Hey, we love video games here. And then we have one of my favorite guests coming back to one of my shows. I've interviewed him once before. Charlie Rosen of the 8-Bit Big Band. He's coming on. He's going to promote his show. That's December 10th. It's a virtual show. He's going to come promote that. So you go watch the virtual show. It's virtual, so it's safe. Yeah.
You just did so many finger guns. I can't even comprehend it.
I've looked back, and I do a finger gun.
At least once an episode.
At least once an episode. Yeah, I do. It's crazy. But we got a lot of good stuff coming up, so stay right there. Stay locked. We have some good stuff coming up. We'll be right back with FamilyJules. Stay right there. Okay, hey, welcome back. We got our first guest. Are you excited?
So excited.
I love doing musical guests, but this is probably my favorite set of musical guests.
Oh, I can
I
tell.
love video games as well.
Right in your wheelhouse.
It's absolutely in my wheelhouse. So we have FamilyJules. Jules, how you doing? How's it going?
Doing all right. What's up, Chris?
Nothing much. So, first thing I gotta ask. So you shred on the guitar, absolutely shred. So when I was doing my research, it said you got your first guitar in 2006. Was that something you were like always wanted to do, or is it something you just picked up and then got really good at?
I was thinking about this the other day. I remember specifically being a kid and being like, "Hey, Mom, can I get an electric guitar?" And she was like, "No, you'll electrocute yourself." And I was like, "Oh, that makes sense. There's like metal on it and it's electric, so that makes sense." I didn't give that second thought. Well, like, wait a minute, how doesn't anybody else get? Whatever, it's fine. It's fine. My mom probably knows best. So yeah, I just kind of put it out of my head for a while. I decided I'd learn drums, and I wasn't very good at that. I learned piano. I was okay, but still not amazing at it. But I had a guitar gifted to me for Christmas as a surprise. They were like, "Hey, my great aunt and my mom decided to come together and was like, let's give this 16-year-old something to do so he doesn't get into trouble." And that was the guitar.
It was an acoustic guitar, right?
Yep, it was an acoustic guitar.
So when did you get your first electric guitar?
It would have been probably a year after. Probably like a year after I got my first one, so probably 2007. I got like a little Ibanez electric guitar.
And you probably didn't put those down ever. Like you got the guitars and you just had them, and you were just learning stuff all the time.
Yeah, I guess like the cool thing about picking up guitar when you're in high school is like high school sucks, so when you come home, like you'll literally do anything else, you know? So like, yeah, I would be in school and, you know, be doing my work, and then I'd be thinking about like, I can't wait to go home and do literally anything else. And the best thing that was there was either video games or guitar. And I picked up my guitar every day, practiced a bunch of hours. But it actually wasn't for a few years until I started saying like, hey, maybe I should learn how to play an F-Zero X song or a Zelda song or something like that. And I think then that's when it really started coming together as to what I would do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and so you tried to play in 3 different bands before becoming like a one-man show. And so how did you come to that decision, and what was that process like for you? You decided that being on your own would work better for you.
You ever work in like a group project in school and you're the only person?
Yeah, really recently.
Three specific instances where I felt that, and I was like, you know what? Maybe these projects, since I'm doing all the work anyway. No, I mean, obviously it was, you know, I was always the most eager to be pushing forward with music and stuff. So that was always like, you know, people get into a band for a variety of different reasons. And my reason was definitely I wanted to make music, I wanted to perform, and it was happening slower than I wanted to. And I know that I was the nagger that was like, come on guys, please, let's go do, let's perform, let's do this. And they're like, no dude, let's just like hang out and, you know, just watch some movies and play some video games and, you know, hang out with friends and go to parties and stuff. And I was like, no, we gotta like, you know. So eventually I was just like, no, I can, you know, you can program drums on a computer, and I can play guitar. I can do all this. So then I did.
You're the Steven Stills of your group. So how many of those bands did you actually start? If any.
I feel like they were all like co-starting. You know what I mean? Like they were all like me and somebody else decided to start it, and then we brought people on. But yeah, for the most part, it ended up kind of me driving everything with I'm trying to think. But now I'm still in a band now, and now it's and that band started after I'd kind of started my YouTube stuff, and that one is wonderful. I love my current band. They're wonderful.
And what's the name of that band?
Called Thunderforge.
Thunderforge. So you release a new song every Tuesday on the one channel on FamilyJules, Thursday on your own personal channel as well. But you also started streaming a lot on Twitch. Has that become something that's to you as big as the music, is going on Twitch? And because you have a big following on Twitch as well.
It hasn't always been that. Like I've been doing FamilyJules for about 10 years now. Twitch was about 7 or 8 years ago that I started that, but and it kind of started kind of slow. But then the personal channel ended up kind of being like this, like the stuff that we do on the Twitch channel, the streaming, we'll make like little videos out of it, and it actually ended up being a cool like two-way I just saw this clip from The Office. The only word that comes to my head is two-way petting zoo. You know, like they're both feeding each other. So like, you know, I'll make a stream, and you know, it'll be I don't know, we'll play Among Us or something, and then we'll I have editors that I'll hire to be like, hey, can you take this video and make something video out of it? You know, and then they'll like put it on Jules Conroy, that channel, and then people will find that video and then come to the stream, and then the people who watch the stream come watch the video. So then that was kind of cool because that kind of came out of nowhere, whereas the music stuff was something I really like I went hard on for a very, very long time.
You're just cross-marketing yourself. You do what, you know, this group is coming over here, this group's coming over here, you're bringing it all together and making one big market. So that's really cool.
I feel like it's tough right now for any kind of creator, you know, just because you have to kind of market yourself to the broadest possible audience, especially with social media and stuff, because so many people will see lots and lots of stuff and just not engage with it and not interact with it. And it's that engagement and interaction that actually pushes things to move forward. And what I found with music is like, you know, like everyone for the most part loves music. Video game music, metal guitar covers starts to get very, very niche. It's kind of a niche of a niche of a niche of a niche. And, you know, once I started doing video game stuff, that was more like, you know, video game, you know, subjectively comedy. That's a much broader thing. So it was kind of interesting kind of having that perspective after kind of being tunneled into this niche for so long. That's usually what the hard truth I have to give a lot of people who are like, hey, I'm thinking about doing, math progressive rock covers of specifically Super Metroid. How well will that do? And I'll be like, there's a few people who I'm sure would love that, but I mean, you're not going to play Madison Square Garden with that. Like, I mean, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, so like that's kind of something that's been really, really cool to kind of branch off into in this time of social media.
Metroid would be an odd game to pick as well, because they haven't even released a game for Metroid in forever. I mean, picking that,
they were gonna, and then they scrapped like the whole thing, I guess.
Really?
Metroid Prime 4. They announced,
the game you're talking about. Yeah, they announced it, and then it's just disappeared. They made an announcement a few years later where they were just like, hey, you know, the game is not coming out the way that we want, so we unfortunately do have to scrap the whole thing and then start over. And my thing with Nintendo is like, I am all for that. Like a company who, you know, obviously that's like, you know, not going to be the most profitable thing. The most profitable thing probably would be like, say like, well, screw it, we already spent all this money, let's just put out a piece of crap game and then do better on Metroid Prime 5. But Nintendo has always been really good about not doing that, about like, no, we're going to put out a polished game. And, you know, Miyamoto has been on record famously for saying, you know, a bad game is a bad game forever. A late game is a good game eventually, you know, and people forget about all that stuff. Like once Metroid Prime 4 is out and it's been out for a while, everyone's going to forget about the time that it took to get there. Like, easily. Especially their like biggest games, they're not gonna put them out and have something where people are like, oh yeah, I don't like this game. Like they have to make sure it's one of their top games. So when you started putting out videos, you immediately went to the video game music. What made you decide to go from more serious type music to the video game type music?
It was more of what had an emotional reaction out of me, you know, like I think since I grew up with things like Banjo-Kazooie and, you know, The Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Bros. And like all of these games and stuff, before I got into bands like, Avenged Sevenfold, the bands that really like kind of, you know, that I got brought up on, the nostalgia overload of hearing a video game melody gave me more of a whatever, that musical high that you get when listening to a song you like. And I found that it was more rewarding to play stuff like that than play stuff from bands. So I think I just kind of followed that, you know, like at a certain point I was like, yeah, you know, this isn't customary. This isn't like a thing that a lot of people do, but it's what makes me happy, so I'm gonna go for it. I think I just kind of followed that as far as it went, and it got me pretty far somehow.
And you announced that it was a while ago now, but you announced that you were the guitarist on Cadence of Hyrule, which came out for the Nintendo Switch. First of all, congrats on that, because that's so amazing that you are forever going to be a part of a Legend of Zelda game, which is, I mean, that's got to be an amazing feeling. How did that opportunity come up?
I on YouTube I did a cover of a song from the game Super Meat Boy, which is an indie game, and the composer actually reached out to me after I had done that, because I guess one of his friends showed it. It's like, hey, look at this, you know, spiky-haired weirdo playing music on a guitar, and he was like, wow, he sure is doing that, and reached out to me, you know, said he appreciated it and stuff, and then we stayed in contact afterwards. And then eventually he did the music for a game called Binding of Isaac, and for the DLC he wanted to have a guitarist for it. So he was like, hey, do you want to do a quick little guitar thing on the DLC for this? And I was like, yeah, of course. And I think that branched out into then him asking me to do guitars for his next game, which was Crypt of the Necrodancer. And Crypt of the Necrodancer eventually got the opportunity to make a Zelda title. So, and then I was still on the team for it. So yeah, not only did I get to do the metal guitar or the guitars for the OST, but I also got to do the alternate metal soundtrack that came out this year. Just like Necrodancer also has a alternate metal soundtrack that I did completely myself as well. So yeah, it was just kind of like I was at the right place at the right time. You know, this was obviously long time ago. I did the cover in 2011 probably, yeah. And then the Necrodancer happened 2015, and then I got that fateful Discord message probably 2017 where Danny sent me in all lowercase letters, hey, want to do a Zelda game? And I said, okay.
Yeah, I guess if that's how I have to.
What's my schedule looking? Yeah, all right.
I think I can fit that in there. Is composing and doing video game music for games something that was a goal of yours, or is it something kind of became something through the videos?
That was the moon. I was shooting for the moon. That was the moon. You know, and I just figured, you know, even if I missed, I'd be much further along than I would have been if I did nothing. But yeah, I wanted to. I was really inspired by people who wrote music for like Nintendo 64, specifically the rare titles like Banjo-Kazooie, GoldenEye. The composers Grant Kirkhope, Robin Beanland, Graham Norgate, all these guys, and I was like, man, like if I could have that kind of a legacy, it's kind of like, you know, these are the people that had the biggest musical imprint on me, the earliest in my life, and you know, obviously had the biggest musical influence on me. So I was like, if I could have that kind of influence, that's kind of my passing on of the baton, so to speak. You know, that was my. That seemed like my purpose, what I wanted my purpose to be, rather. Mm-hmm. So that was really what I was going for. And eventually I got into, you know, so many other game soundtracks and stuff. And so yeah, like YouTube was cool. I liked, you know, making videos and making arrangements, and but it never really was like the goal. Like I never wanted to be like a popular YouTuber or like even like a famous guitarist. Like my degree is actually in classical guitar performance, but performance is probably one of my least favorite parts of music. Like I get very nervous and whatever on stage. So it's not the most comfortable thing for me. But the thing that I was like is if I could compose music for games, that'd be amazing, because I get to do that in my pajamas. You know, like not actually have to you know, go outside in front of a crowd, like ew. No, like so yeah, that started feeling like, okay, that prophecy is coming true, you know, or whatever. But yeah, I don't know, it's weird because I think as time has gone on, the things that I've wanted to do has changed, but you know, I have wanted to be in, you know, a band and perform as a band, but that being able to compose for a game, and being a video game composer and stuff, that's never gone away. That's always still been the main thing that I want to do.
Well, I can absolutely tell you're extremely passionate about it. Just the way you're talking about it and the way you love to do it. I love to hear that.
Yeah, it's also kind of like, I feel like it's much safer money when you don't have to rely on advertisers and YouTube and stuff like that, and demonetization and stuff, which is what all these, like, you know, you have like millions of subscriber creators who are like, I don't know if I can pay for my multi-million-dollar mansion this month. It's like, well, I mean, well, like, but you wouldn't buy a multi-million-dollar mansion if you didn't feel like that was a stable income. But obviously, exactly. Like, they thought that was the case, and then oops, Coca-Cola doesn't want to put ads on my video. What do I do? Like, so that's always been kind of like, if I could, you know, like I've been very lucky to be stable this, you know, and make a living out of making video game covers on YouTube. Mm-hmm. You know, but I've always that the video game composition thing has always been like that. Always seems like the right answer and where I'm headed.
And so is this a full-time job, the video game stuff and the music and stuff like that is an absolute full-time job?
Yep. And Twitch, you know, and
That's-
doing everything. Yeah.
That must be just amazing. That's living the dream right there. You're doing everything you love to do and you're making the money you need to make for it. That's amazing. That's living the dream right there. So you compose a lot of songs then. When you're doing the rock covers, do you compose those songs as well, or do you find the music sheets somewhere?
Depends. Sometimes there'll be like fan arrangements on like MuseScore or you know, vgmusic.com has been a website I've been using since I was like 8 years old. You know, like I think that website opened up in like 1996 or 7 or something.
Yeah, it's ancient.
Yeah, I love it. It's like, yeah, there's a bunch of MIDI arrangements all over the place that you can drag into a DAW, like a Logic or Cubase or whatever you use, and it spreads everything out, and you can see all the notes. But obviously, it's not official, so there could be mistakes. So I'll take that. I'll find sheet music, and I'll find the original song, and I'll kind of put it together. And with my musical training, or lack thereof, I put together something, right? And then I try to go from there. So it's usually an extensive research project in the beginning, and then but if there's literally nothing, it's like, yeah, I have to pick every note from scratch by ear.
And the first one you did for YouTube was GoldenEye, I believe, right?
Technically, I did an Ocarina of Time warp song medley that I deleted because it sounded so bad. And yeah, those ones were definitely like pretty much from scratch.
Wow. I think that's awesome that you could listen to a song, pick up an instrument, and then completely make it into a new sounding track. I think it's amazing because I definitely can't do it. I think that's why.
I appreciate it.
I definitely can't do it.
Well beyond both Chris and I's talent level.
Yeah.
in any capacity.
Hey, sometimes it's beyond mine, but I just kind of, I see the train wreck, and the difference is I just barrel right into it. I'm just like, whatever, let's see what happens.
I have an ocarina that I got.
Hey!
I don't know how to play.
It's really hard. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I got it, and I was like, I'm gonna try to play this. I'm gonna try, and I tried. I'm like, what? And
it's not like the recorder. Like you would think it's kind of like the recorder. But
it's not even close.
The weird thing about the ocarina is the amount of breath that you put into it alters the pitch. Where on the recorder, it's like you put down the one hole, and it's always gonna play that one note. You know.
Yeah.
But because of that.
Yeah. There it is. There it is.
Looks like a whale.
Yeah. Hold on, I think I have
That's
the same one.
Do you have the same one? Let's see. Could I have more light over here?
Yeah.
For anybody looking. Let's see. You got the
one
same
right
one? Yeah. We got the same one. There you go.
Yep. Yeah, like the idea though is that you know, because like if you like I have all of the big holes covered, like, but if you kind of you get a lot of different notes out of it depending on how much breath you put into it.
I gotta figure out what Yeah, I'm lost. I don't even know why.
Yeah, but like
RIP to all headphone listeners. Thanks, Chris. Sorry, everyone. I'll apologize right now on his behalf. That's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what's cool about it is you can get like a vibrato from it just based on like how you put your breath into it and stuff. So that's why it's like you wouldn't think, but this thing is like it's an advanced instrument. This whale-looking ceramic thing. But yeah, I had the same experience where I was just like, I bought one. I'm like, this is gonna be so much fun. I played the recorder in 5th grade. Let's go. And went down in my basement and sounded like a cat was dying for about 2 days, and then eventually it sounded okay.
The difference is I could barely play the recorder. Then I was like, I could barely play this. Let's get an ocarina.
Fair.
Yeah, that should work.
So just to refocus a little bit, what are some of your favorite compositions that you've done, melodies, themes? So like, what are some of your favorite ones? Obviously, you did the Zelda, but any other favorites?
You mean do you mean like things that I've composed or things that I've arranged for YouTube and stuff?
Do both.
I was saying, now that you've given me the option, both,
Yeah, let's do
please.
Yeah, I compose songs for my band every once in a while. We're working on an album right now, and there's a bunch of songs on that album that's coming out hopefully soon. The ball's in my court. I have to finish mixing it. I'm overwhelmed with projects right now, so it'll come out sometime. But there's a bunch of songs on there that I'm pretty proud of that I think are my best compositions. Again, I'm working on a few game soundtracks, kind of smaller games, indie games and stuff that I'm really proud of. Some of the stuff I'm writing for that, anywhere between chiptune, retro 8-bit stuff to like full orchestra I'm writing. Actually not doing any metal stuff. Oh, no, I am doing some metal stuff, but I'm doing a lot. But for YouTube and stuff, so I did this one medley back in 2014 where I took songs from video games all the way since 1975, and I made a medley that went from 1975 to 2014 of video game songs, kind of show like the evolution of video gaming over time.
Those are some of your most popular ones, right? Of the videos?
So that was called Replay, and then I redid it last year. I did a 2019 version where it went from 1975 all the way to 2019. There's that, and then there was this Mario medley that I actually I didn't really do any of the main parts myself. I actually got 70 different musicians from YouTube and made a whole medley of Mario through the ages. There's from the first game to Mario Odyssey that had come out the year that medley came out. That was not only my favorite arrangement, but it was also the most rewarding project because, one, I didn't. All I had to do was the backing stuff. I let everybody else do all the hard stuff. But it was so rewarding to kind of like hear all of this talent. It's obviously very small snippets of every song, but like, I'd pop in the audio file from one person and be like, oh my God, like, Amy Waters is amazing. And then, get through that and then pop in, oh my God, music. Like this is mind blowing. And, just like, it was so cool to get to work with so much talent, in one project. So that's probably my favorite to work with.
I don't know if I've heard the Mario one. I'm going to have to go back and listen. I've heard the other ones. I've heard the original one, which is fantastic.
Thank you.
And I've heard the most recent one, the 2019 one, I'm pretty sure, but I don't know if I've heard the whole Mario one. I think one of my favorite arrangements by you is Delfino Plaza.
Oh, right. That was recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I love the Delfino Plaza one, how it starts out just like normal and then just bang right in the rock. I love it. I absolutely love that.
I did a when I was in school for music, I did a jazz arrangement of Delfino Plaza. But I was a classical guitar major, so I was kind of crossing territories by doing that. But it is somewhere in the deep dark reaches of YouTube. But I would never. I try not to bring it up too much because I was horrifically out of tune and nervous because I was performing as I usually am.
So along with composing with 60 other people or working with 60 other people, what have been some of the coolest moments in your career thus far? Like that's got to be up there.
It's up there. I think it's definitely the absolute legends I've got to do covers with. So like in I think it was 2018, I got to do the original Mario Bros theme with John Petrucci from Dream Theater, who's one of my all-time favorite guitarists to ever live. I got a deal through Ernie Ball, who sponsored me to do a video with him to help promote his new guitar. And that was mind-blowing. Then 2019, I got to do a cover with Grant Kirkhope, the composer of Banjo-Kazooie, because he also plays guitar, and we got to do the final battle from Banjo-Kazooie together, like as like a dueling guitar thing. And then this year I got to do the Fairy Fountain theme with Jason Richardson, who was originally with Born of Osiris and is now playing for All That Remains. Another one of my favorite guitarists of all time that just, okay, Sick.
That's amazing.
And then just this week, I played Among Us with Dragon Force. It's insane. It is insane how, like, you know, it started with me going, ha ha ha, Zelda on a guitar. Oops, delete that. That sounds bad. GoldenEye on a guitar. Okay, let's keep that one up. And then, you know, things not where I thought it would go. That's for sure.
Do you have any, other than those, any other dream collaborations that you might try to do in the future?
My favorite band in the world is Avenged Sevenfold. I would love to do something with those guys, but it seems so stupid for me to even ask that. But with what I've had, you know, happen, it doesn't seem that dumb. But but there's also kind of a part of me that like almost doesn't want to, because like not to like ruin the magic, but I kind of always want them to be like the musical gods that just like don't they exist like omnipresently. Just, you know, it's not like to have them actually be a real person might like screw me up fundamentally.
Trust me, I understand that.
Yeah,
I absolutely understand that. When I was in my last show, I got to interview Rev Run of Run DMC. This is way long ago.
Yeah,
and that's a, you know, up there for me. And he was so rude. It just hurt. It hurt. It hurt
really?
real bad.
Oh, no.
It hurt real bad. So I understand that.
Never meet your heroes. No, I know that. Like, I'm not worried about them being rude. Honestly, like at this point, like I've seen enough of the music industry to know that like you have to have a tough skin to be able to deal with it.
That was my first taste ever. I think I was like a sophomore in college, and I felt like, so they had him coming in, and everyone was like too scared to interview him. So you want to do it? I was like, yes. Like,
yes,
I can in front, of course. And now look where we are. I'm just interviewing everybody. We feel like we have one every day. But that one hurt a little bit. It's like, wow, he's so rude. Why? He's not supposed to be rude. And then I realized what you just said. Like, there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, it's tough because people take advantage of you. You know, it's like you always think it's like all like glamorized and dramatic in the movies and stuff, but no, I mean, not always out of you know, spite or people trying to be evil, but like especially now in a time of like where most of the people who are like running these corporations have no idea what a Twitter is, like trying to understand like what is going on, you know, like how do musicians get anywhere? You know, they put all of this money into like advertising and marketing. They put these people on billboards that nobody looks at because everybody's inside because there's a coronavirus. Like, but no, these bands like will put out a Twitter post where they're like, haha meme, you know, and then it'll get like millions of hits, and then suddenly they're getting all this stuff and they have no idea what's going on. It's like, so then those people are the ones who are calling the shots. So not only are they like maybe, you know, being, you know, manipulating because they're like trying to get the most money, but they're being manipulative because they just don't understand. They don't understand what's manipulation anymore. And so I think it's even worse now. Until like the social media generation kind of moves into it. But knowing how time is going, like by then the next thing, virtual social media inter-brain link is going to be the thing, and then we're going to be the you know, the boomers who have no idea what's going on. But like
it's funny to see businesses trying to catch up sometimes.
Yeah,
it's really funny. Like they're still on Facebook. Everyone's gone. Like you're too behind.
You're people try to make
behind.
Memes on like Facebook groups. It's like, dude, come on.
We're behind. We're behind the times. We're past that.
Behind.
People are on like Instagram and TikTok now. They're not even on Twitter anymore. It's they're way behind there.
Yeah.
But the worst part about the industry like that is how disposable artists are to businesses. It's rough.
Yeah.
Like I've seen it a lot. I've seen it with like bands that are up and coming, and they'll use them for an opener for this person or that person, and then they'll never do anything with them again. It's like, it's so disposable. It's like, oh well, there's 1,000 of them. It's like, but there's really not. You chose to work with this person. Like you shouldn't just be throwing them away.
Well, like on from their point of view, it's like it's not cost effective to keep doing favors. You know, it's tough because. Yeah, it is manipulative, but it's also like in some ways, like, you know, I've definitely had to be a lot more on the side of the business side of things when kind of being self-employed and stuff like that, like for all of this stuff. But like, I'm I mean, I get it. It's like, you know, especially with like using, you know, trying to teach, you know, old dog new tricks, like throwing money around the same way you would back then, it's not going to be cost effective. So you can't afford to, you know, have the same band sometimes, like, because the same band is going to want more money because they deserve more money, obviously,
very
but
true.
sometimes they don't have it. And and you know, a lot of people might see that as manipulative, and in a way, from a certain point of view, it kind of is, but it's tough. I mean, it's the times for all this stuff gets so much more complicated. So it's nice that I make video game covers on YouTube. And I'm done. I'm good.
People wonder how come there's so many independent artists now.
Yeah.
This is why. This is exactly why. Because making on your own is so much easier.
And so with all of that, and you've obviously got a lot of insight into this, what advice would you give to someone who was like trying to get started? Because you've got a lot of insights in like YouTube and Twitch and a bunch of other platforms. What advice would you give someone who wanted to start up and coming?
Don't.
Nothing.
Just stop now.
Just stop now.
Well, the thing is just it's so tough. Because the thing that worked for me was I took two things that very few people were putting together, and I put it together and I put it on a platform that it wasn't being churned out factory style weekly. You know, like people have been doing video game music on guitars since video game music has been a thing, you know. But I was one of the first people to start really churning them out weekly, starting to try to monetize them by understanding licensing and being able to put it on Spotify and stuff like that. And then kind of building a huge audience for it. Like I was probably one of the biggest, like specifically video game music artists on YouTube, doing what I do. But now it's so much harder because you have to find that balance between, like, if you want to stand out, you have to really find a niche, but the more you niche yourself, the more you're limiting your audience. So it stops becoming like there's a surefire way or any tips or tricks for, you know, like a broad, you know, selection. I think it kind of starts with trying to be, like, I think artists now have to be way more specific with what their goal is than they were before. Where, you know, before they could be like, I want to be a famous rock band, and then Nirvana happens. You know, that doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't. Like you know, they were able to, you know, be in a garage and be really bad for a really long time, and then play, and then become one of the greatest bands to ever live. But like, people don't really go to live shows as much anymore. Like that's no longer the funnel, the pigeonhole that everything has to go through. Now there's social media, now there's YouTube, and yeah, there are live shows, and that's definitely a thing still. But because there's so much more, you have to have more of a game plan. And I think that's probably the best thing. The best advice I can give to a general population trying to be artists and try to be successful is, ironically, be more specific. Figure out specifically what it is that you want, and the worst case scenario, you'll land somewhere around what you were trying to do, but at least you had a goal, you know, which I think really, really helps.
It's great advice. Thank you for joining us again. You can catch his streams on Thursday, FamilyJules on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
His videos are Tuesday, and then on your second channel on Jules Conroy.
It's Thursday, YouTube. Saturday, and Monday on
Thursday,
Jules
Saturday.
Conroy. And then Twitch streams are... What's today? Okay. I thought I had to stream today. Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. I have my life together, I promise.
Go check them out. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right back with Charlie Rosen from the 8-Bit Big Band. We'll be right back.
Love Charlie. He's so good.
All right, welcome back. We got an excellent guest, friend of the show. They're all friends of the show. I say it every time. They're all friends of the show. We call each other friends here. He's one of the brightest stars on Broadway. His band, the 8-Bit Big Band, has a virtual live performance coming up at Sony Hall, December 10th, 8 p.m. No matter what time zone you're in, it's at 8 p.m.
Yep.
Charlie Rosen, what you doing? How's it going?
Pretty good. You know, getting by.
So you told us that you made a move to a new place on the pre-show here, and we were just talking about how, you know, you're painting your doors and your friends' walls. What's been going on since COVID? I mean, it feels like, again, in pre-show we said it feels like 3 years. We just talked earlier this year. How's it been going through all this?
I mean, it's so fun. We talked in January, right?
Yeah.
So like, it's crazy to think about. I mean, my life was sort of full speed ahead when we talked. Like when we talked, I was about to like conduct at Carnegie Hall for the first time, and like all this crazy stuff was happening. I was rehearsing this orchestra, and the 8-Bit Big Band was about to do its Sony Hall performance 2 days before Carnegie Hall, and like things were just nonstop. And then we played in Boston at the Berkeley Performance Center for 2 shows on March 1st with Carlos with Insane in the Rain's big band opening for us, and it was just like a nonstop flurry of like large orchestras all at once. And it's actually crazy to think that March 1st we were in a room with 4,000 audience members and 2 big bands, and it was like 2 weeks later the world was going to completely stop. I'm just honestly thankful that I personally didn't get COVID. I mean, a number of members of the 8-Bit Big Band, in fact, did get COVID, and one was in very serious condition on a ventilator in a coma for a month. So luckily we're doing better now, but you know, it was dark for a while there.
Yeah, it's crazy how many stories you hear like that, and then there's still people that won't wear a mask or just don't believe it. It's like, what do you think? People are making this up?
I know.
Millions of people are making this up. It makes no sense.
And this is the first time I've talked about this, but like since I announced that virtual concert, which is happening on December 10th, which I'll get into in a sec, there have been people commenting on those posts being like, why don't you have an audience? Like, why are you being so careful? You know, it's like a fake disease, or like it doesn't kill 99.9% of people. And I'm like, that maybe that's true. I don't totally know, but it did almost kill a member of the 8-Bit Big Band and infected a handful, at least 3 or 4 others. So I don't know what to tell you.
It's like, first of all, yeah, I've personally been to 2 of your shows, and they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And I'm not just saying that. I wouldn't have gone to 2 of them. You know, I don't see many people twice. Yeah. But like, even if it killed 0.0001% of people, isn't that too many?
That's still too many.
That's a lot of people.
Still people dying. So I don't get that. So that on that note, this live stream concert, I started planning with a producer like, you know, maybe 2 months ago, and things in New York were looking really good at that point. We felt safe. Even given that, we have required that we're not exceeding the current limit of 50 people in a space. Everybody's going to wear a mask unless they're playing a wind instrument, and everybody's required to get a COVID rapid test no more than 48 hours before the show. They rented out the whole 600-seat theater, so the entire orchestra is spread out horizontally. Nobody's in front of each other. Everyone's got their own mic. You know, we're doing everything we can. We're blowing air on breaks, taking frequent breaks, and clearing the room. We're doing everything we can to be safe. Even still, the numbers in New York are going up, and so, you know, we're keeping an eye on it day to day, but we are taking as many precautions as we possibly can.
And it's crazy how more people are upset that they can't go than that are praising you for doing all that. And it's,
I know, right?
It could be a whole thing. We won't go too much into that because it's definitely obviously on everyone's radar there. But the show that's going on, you said, so you rented out the whole thing and you're spreading everybody out, which is going to be so cool. And everybody has their own mic. So do you have an idea how that's going to sound already? Or is this kind of going in, you don't really know how it's going to sound because that's not really how it's done there?
Yeah, I mean, I had some concerns going in about the sound for sure, but I did a site visit and with some of the people on tech there, and they have been doing live streams at Sony Hall already, like, you know, with bands. So with people 5 or 6 people, they'll do it on stage. And because it's Sony sponsored, they're fully decked out with like all the equipment you could possibly want. 6 4K cameras that are, some are mounted, some are not. All the mics you could need. You know, this brand new like HD sound system with this thing called Reality Audio that they can do like 360 audio and headphones and all sorts of crazy stuff. So tech-wise, they're set up for it. So essentially what it's going to be like, it's just going to be like a live recording session, basically. You know, everyone's going to have, like, we would go into the studio and everyone would have a mic and the drums would be behind a shield, you know, like we would just do a live recording session, which is what we do anyway to make our album. So it's essentially just that. But there will be a live stream of it, and I will be talking to a virtual audience while doing that. So I have faith that these engineers and the tech people there they're just basically treating it like a recording session, you know?
Yeah, and he's
It
talking
sounded
about
great.
he's talking about the show at Sony Hall, December 10th. That's fully virtual. Where could people go if they want tickets? Are $20, by the way. If they want to get a ticket, where can they go?
They can go to our website, the8bitbigband.com, and more specifically, the8bitbigband.com/tickets, or you can go to our Instagram bio and click a link right there, and it'll pull you right up to the ticket site. Or you could go to the Sony Hall website, and I'm sure they have a link to it on there. I haven't checked personally, but I can't imagine they don't.
So there's so many ways to do it. There's no way if you can't find it, you might need to turn your computer on because you can find it just about everywhere.
And all the tickets are $20. Just everyone comes in $20, and you get a ticket to the show.
Perfect. So other than 8-Bit Big Band stuff, what else have you been doing? I mean, you were doing so much in January. I believe you were doing something with Billy Crystal, and you're doing the 8-Bit Big Band,
right? And
you were doing all this stuff. So what happened once COVID hit? What happened with you?
Well, we did end up recording that film score for the Billy Crystal movie. It got pushed and pushed until we ended up doing it sort of half remote, half in person. I recorded a lot of instruments from home, and then we went into a small studio and did like one person at a time and recorded some strings and some horns, with Billy Crystal on Zoom. So, and so we got that done. But essentially, my life has completely pivoted towards home producing, home recording. There've been a ton of sort of like virtual events that have been happening in the theater world and outside of it, benefits and galas and live stream concerts that have all needed like tracks for these singers to sing along to. So I've been making a living producing backing tracks for like high profile virtual events. Like there was a Broadway for Biden event, and like all these theater companies have their virtual galas, and just various things. I just produced a track for Jennifer Hudson to sing for a virtual event, and all sorts of stuff. And then just like a lot of theater artists are using this time to like work on their shows. And so I've been doing a lot of demos for these shows from home, and just fully pivoted to recording stuff from home. We finished our third album remotely. So the not only is the show on December 10th for the 8-Bit Big Band, but the 8-Bit Big Band's third album, which is called Backwards Compatible, is coming out on January 8th. So we completed that in quarantine. All the horn players recorded from home and submitted them to me, and then we recorded rhythm section in the studio, drums, piano, and bass. So that's finished. We finished that up, and that's honestly, I'm more excited about that than anything. It sounds so good.
Yeah, I bet.
So
what are some of the challenges with doing it all at home and on Zoom and stuff like that, though? I mean, being obviously in a studio with everybody there, and you can say, hey, we need more of this, hey, we need more of that. You can have the tech guy right in your ear.
Right.
With everybody being all over the place, what are some of the biggest challenges?
The biggest challenges of like recording an orchestra like that is that the horn and string players can't like listen to each other for decisions about how to phrase certain notes and lines and things like that. And so there's definitely some more back and forth that you have to do, to get it to sound as clean as it would in a studio. But we ended up with a pretty good product despite all of that. I mean, the way we got around it is the last 3 tracks that we recorded for the album, basically like there was only one trumpet player, and that trumpet player played all 4 parts. And so it's really tight and clean sounding, because otherwise if they weren't playing together, they wouldn't phrase together. So it's definitely been sort of a compromise, but it ended up sounding really great. And the key to that was recording live piano, drums, and bass still, so that as a rhythm section, as sort of the foundation of the band, we could still interact with the people playing,
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
outside of like the challenges of COVID, what's the hardest part of composing all of this? So like when you guys are all in the same place, what's the most difficult part about composing and putting these pieces together with all those players, even when you're in the same room?
Right. It's funny because once we get into the studio to do it, that's actually the easiest part, because everybody is so good that it's like once we're there, it just sort of happens. We just are like, boom, let's do that song. Great. Sounds great. Boom. Next song. Great. Boom. Next song. Great. And, so we do about like a song every 45 minutes. We do a song, and that's like a leisurely, like, okay, cool. We'll do a couple takes each, we're not like under a pressure cooker. But the reason that can happen is because I do a ton of prep work for those recording sessions, and that's the thing that is the most time consuming. Of course, like actually arranging the songs takes time, and artistic inspiration.
Absolutely.
But the thing is, I make absolutely sure that all of the sheet music looks perfect. You know, it's all printed and taped well. I hire the whole band, book the studio, book the videographers. Just try and like, put my producer hat on and think of every possible thing that could go wrong and mitigate that ahead of time. So like any time spent in the studio talking about like, oh wait, hold on, what measures am I supposed to play? Or like, oh wait, what were you thinking when you wrote this? Like that's wasted time. And so it's stuff I can do ahead of time with like through prep work. And I make a very good sounding demo. I send the demo out to people so they can take a listen ahead of time. So that's really the biggest hurdle, is all this sort of like logistical stuff that goes into booking a large orchestra session like this and having it run efficiently.
How do you get some of the inspiration for some of the stuff you do? Because for anybody that doesn't know, that's been living under a rock or whatever, you do a big band version of video game songs, but you put your own twist on it. Like you had the Wii song with Austin Powers. The Yoshi one was more like a Louisiana jazz, Bourbon Street type feel. So how do you get the inspiration to put these onto the songs? Or Tetris is another big one.
Totally. Right.
Yeah. So how do you get these inspiration for that?
There's sort of two routes that this stuff can go. And the first route is like the more sort of straight path. And that is, you know, we take these old songs from video games in which they were very limited by the technology with which to represent their musical ideas. And as a fellow musician, I can sort of listen to that and hear through the limitations, although the limitations were great because through limitation, they were able to do some really creative things. But say like, okay, if I listen to that athletic theme from Yoshi's Island, or I listen to the Tetris theme, I hear like, oh, you know, I hear the Yoshi's Island thing. You're going in this sort of like traditional jazz kind of Dixieland direction already. And so I'm just going to take that. And now that I have the full gamut of orchestral resources at my disposal, and we're removing it from its original context and need to loop, I'm going to run fully in that direction as a producer and an arranger towards all of the musical choices that are in the orbit of traditional, you know, New Orleans jazz. So like, what is that? Like, what are my now available textures to me with this ensemble in this idiom? And I just put them all in there, right? And so Tetris, same thing. That Tetris theme A is a Russian folk song that was repurposed. And so what are other things in the orbit of that? Other Russian folk songs, other Eastern European styles, you know, like horas or like mazurkas and other, you know, and I put some Chopin in there, which isn't Eastern European, but is like sort of classical, you know, putting that in there. So just like running in that direction with those things. But then there's another route for like inspiration, which is totally taking it from its original context, just taking the building blocks of the song, like its melody, and doing a complete stylistic change to it. And that's like Still Alive from Portal in the style of Frank Sinatra. But it still has like a thread. The inspiration of those are not random. Like I think for that to work, for you to recontextualize a whole song in a completely different genre, there still has to be some like dramaturgical seed to that. So the seed of that is like, okay, well, what if, you know, this were you know, something that happened in the 40s or 50s and Frank Sinatra somehow was able to play Portal, you know, and say like, oh, that's a song I want to cover, like he would do with the Broadway shows of the time. Be like, oh, I loved Guys and Dolls, I want to sing some Guys and Dolls. Like, oh, I loved Portal, I want to sing some Portal, so I'm going to give it to my arranger and I'm going to sing it, you know, that kind of thing. And it also kind of works because of the tone of the lyric of Still Alive. And also we did Want You Gone on the new album in a similar style. Is there's such like playful, sort of sarcastic like lyrics, which works really well for this sort of like carefree Frank Sinatra, I'm easygoing, you know, like I'm still alive, baby. Like they're really like, it works. The lyric works dramaturgically in this style as well.
Yeah, so you have one song. What are some other songs that are going to be on this new album? And the new album, again, is coming out in January for anybody that's looking for it.
January 8th.
January 8th. So what are some of the new songs that we can expect to see?
I'll tell you, and I actually have not said it anywhere else before this, so this is the first time you're here.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. So it's going to be a really, really, really great album. I really stacked this album with some insane special guests.
Okay.
And the album starts with the Chrono Trigger theme featuring an incredible pianist named Stephen Feifke, who's like a young jazz guy who's got a big band, great arranger. And then it goes Gourmet Race from Kirby Superstar.
Yes.
Hydro City Zone from Sonic 3,
Yep.
featuring Grace Kelly playing some sax. And then Want You Gone from Portal 2 with Benny Benack singing and playing trumpet again. Meta Knight's Revenge, also from Kirby Superstar, featuring a keyboard player called Button Masher, who's this incredible like contemporary jazz fusion keyboard player that he takes sound fonts from games and puts them on his MIDI organ and then like rearranges them in incredible ways. So I worked with him on this arrangement, the Super Mario Land Underground theme, featuring Leo P from Too Many Zoos on sax. That's this sort of like metal / Led Zeppelin / like Middle Eastern classical fusion ensemble with this just incredible Barry player that is pushing the envelope of Barry sax, truly. And then we have Dire Dire Docks featuring myself on bass, actually. This is one I wrote, special one to me. Birdman from Pilot Wing 64 featuring Zach Zinger on the Iwi, which is the electronic wind instrument. It's sort of like a synthesized saxophone.
Okay.
Lost in Thoughts All Alone from Fire Emblem Fates, featuring a vocal jazz quintet called Accent that met on YouTube, and they're just like this incredible tight harmony jazz group. Sorry, a song from Ocarina of Time featuring Adam Neely on bass, actually a feature I wrote for Adam. Snake Eater from Metal Gear Solid, featuring an insane vocalist named Tiffany Mann, who I met working on Be More Chill, the Broadway show, just like an incredible vocalist. Jump Up Superstar from Odyssey with Grace Kelly singing, and then concluding with the Super Mario World end theme from Super Mario World, which is just like a good old swing tune.
So some of these I've heard before because you played them in some of your live shows, but I don't think all of them have been played yet, right?
No, yeah. We're going to be playing some of them for the first time on December 10th, and some of them people won't hear until the album comes out.
Some of those I'm just like, it made me so excited to hear some of those. The Gourmet Race, I think we actually talked about the last time we talked when we were talking about songs. Oh, that's so great. So before we keep going on that, I want to go back a little bit. You did 2 Broadway shows before you even turned 20, and then recently you worked on Moulin Rouge, which you were nominated for a Tony for. So
that's
congratulations for that, first of all.
Thank you.
Because getting that nomination took long enough, and then you finally get it, and now you got to wait to even hear who's going to win that one.
I know, and what's so funny about that is the Tonys are usually in June, and so obviously they were canceled, and then they were like, we're going to do a virtual Tonys, and they announced these nominees in October. They were like, we're going to do a virtual event in December. And it's now, we haven't heard a single word since the nominations came out. And it's like, well, it's almost December, so I don't think that's going to happen. So we're just sort of like, I don't know. Well, maybe one day maybe the Tonys will happen. Who knows? We don't know. We have no idea.
And since they kind of put it on us with the nominations, how did you even hear about it? Like, were you sitting down and like waiting for it, or did someone just be like, "Hey, did you know you got nominated for a Tony?"
Yeah, kind of that. I was like on a little sort of like mini vacation with my girlfriend and 2 friends that I've been quarantined with a lot. We like got an Airbnb in upstate New York, and we brought the dog, and we were on the way home from that, like driving in the car back to New York City, 4-hour car ride, and then somebody was just on their phone. They were like, "Hey, you got nominated for a Tony." Oh my shit.
Yeah, like,
I guess I should call my parents.
And after this, before the 8-Bit Big Band, you did the Brooklyn Big Band. So what made you start wanting to do big band? You did both at the same time.
The Broadway Big Band.
Okay. The Broadway Big Band.
Yeah.
And what made you decide to even get into big band, swing band type stuff?
Well, I guess my dad is a jazz musician, like an early jazz musician, and 20s, 30s stuff, and also plays some bluegrass. But, I've always sort of had that stuff around, and my mom is a classical musician, so I grew up with like orchestral and large ensemble jazz music around in the house. But it wasn't until high school when I started playing in big bands in high school that I sort of was like, oh, this is an amazing sound. And then it took a few more years. I went to Berkeley, and I was doing some Broadway shows, and I just always loved big band writing. I seen big bands growing up, contemporary big bands in LA, and I've always just loved large orchestras of any kind. And so I found that big bands are more progressive, you know what I mean? So like big band is an interesting thing because on one hand people say like, oh, I love big band music, like, but they're talking about it like a genre, like, oh, swing music, like Benny Goodman or whatever. But big band is also now just become like a term for a certain set of instruments. And it's, you know, big band is just a vehicle of which we can put any genre of music in now and have this big band set of instruments that plays like rock or funk or swing or jazz or metal or, you know, whatever, like literally whatever. And so the vehicle of big band has been a good way. It has been like how I feel like I personally want to write. Like I want the rhythm section to be any kind of band and just have a ton of horns on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in college, I had a girlfriend at the time who was like an actress, and we were like, we should make like a big band EP and you'll sing some stuff from Broadway shows and I'll arrange them for you. And we made like a 6-song EP. And then that sort of gave me the idea to be like, oh, I should start doing this in New York and use my Broadway connections to get singers to play in the band. So I did that for about 6 or 7 years, still doing it. I just haven't done it for a while. Actually working on that album as well. After like 10 years of having this, we've got tons of songs. And that sort of served as like a lab for me to be like, well, once every 2 months, I have this big band show of all songs from Broadway shows, and I can really like do whatever I want with them and try stuff and see what happens. And so that was an incredible way to get my name out there as an arranger, as someone who has those kinds of arranging skills, but also as a lab for myself to test out my arranging and see what works and figure out what my sound was. And all that being said, I've always been a gamer and I've always loved game music. So it kind of just was a transition into like the 8-bit big band. And the short version of that origin story is I was in Japan on a little vacation, and I was in an Airbnb that there was a music store like on the same street of, and it was this music store that had been open for 300 years in Kyoto, which is really cool. And so when I go to like foreign countries, I like to buy, you know, instruments that are from that culture. So I bought a shamisen from there. And Zach Singer, the guy I said plays on Birdman on the new album, he is also a shakuhachi player, which is the traditional Japanese woodwind. And he's like gotten a grant to go study there in Japan and like really serious about this and has tons of Japanese musician friends. And so he hooked me up with a guy in Tokyo, and he was like, you should go take a lesson from this guy. He's so cool. And I went there and he was great. We had such a good time, and he plays koto and shamisen, and he gave me some lessons, and we were talking about music and all this stuff. And then when we were done, I saw that he had a soundtrack to Ganbare Goemon, which is a big game series in Japan, but there was only a couple English releases. One of them was called Mystical Ninja Starring Goemon for the N64. Super, super niche game. It came out the same time as Zelda 64, so it got no attention. But I love this game. It's like one of my favorite games. And so I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you have Ganbare Goemon soundtrack. That's a great game. I love that game. And he was like, oh, you like video games? I'm like, yeah. So he was like, I want to give you a gift. And he gave me his album, which is all traditional Japanese ensemble playing video game music. And it's called Famikoto. In Japan, the Nintendo is called the Famicom, and he plays koto, so it's called Famikoto.
Yeah.
And I was listening to it on the plane. I was like, that's so cool. That's such a great, he did such a good job with these arrangements. And that's when the idea sparked to be like, you know, I love orchestral arranging, and I love big band and pops writing and contemporary ensemble writing, and I love video game music, and I should just do that like I did with the Broadway big band. And I sort of started looking around, and, you know, there's other big bands that play video game music, but I didn't see a sort of like, we are a video game only big band. This is our branding. This is what we do. This is the only thing we play. And there's a ton of video game music orchestras, but they're all most of them are like very serious classical orchestras or like metal orchestras with huge choirs and like, you know, shredding it. Like it's all like very heavy. You know what I mean? And so there wasn't like, I was like, what if the New York Pops or like the Boston Pops did like a night of video game music with like young improvisers and vocalists, you know, and it was like light and fun, and it wasn't like epic orchestral. It was like the lighter side of orchestra, you know, which is not a new thing at all. I just didn't really see anybody doing it in the game music space. So I sort of like wanted to fill that void. Yeah,
I mean, this, and I think the London Orchestra did that one time where they did a bunch of video game music, and it just sounds so great. Like it's so easy on the ears and like so enjoyable and stuff.
Yeah.
And you already mentioned that you really enjoyed that one game. What are the 3 biggest video games that like hold a spot in your heart? What kind of got you started and really attached to that video game music?
It was, I grew up mostly a Nintendo guy, so I have a lean towards that. And I grew up with Nintendo 64 specifically, so I have an even bigger lean towards that. But I mean, the 2 big soundtracks are both by Koji Kondo, the first 2 I think of. And so I don't know if that counts as one because it's the same composer, but it would be Ocarina of Time. Yeah, it'd be Ocarina of Time which I often say that one day I'm going to make a video of just like a dissertation on how each track of that OST has like a nugget of music theory that you can pull out of it. And then the other is Super Mario 64, because like that was the one for me. And then the third soundtrack, it's kind of a tie between Final Fantasy X and Super Mario Galaxy. Because Galaxy was like, listen to this fucking orchestra.
Yeah,
Holy shit.
That
You know?
soundtrack's amazing.
And Final Fantasy X was like, oh, this is a film score, you know? Final Fantasy stuff was showing me that like, oh, this is film music, you know, it deserves the same sort of treatment as we treat film scores, you know, it can function really dramatically, and it's not just about finding little themes that will loop. It's about like, how does this music serve the story the same way that film scores serve their films, and Broadway shows have their scores, and you know, so on. It's like, this is a very artful piece of dramatic underscoring.
What would you say some of the biggest differences between composing for the 8-bit big band and something like Broadway are?
There's really not. I like talking about this because there are not really a ton of differences. There's a few sort of like mechanical differences, of course, and functional differences in the way that music is implemented. One is on stage and it's performed live every night, and you know, and one is coded and implemented and needing to function and change in real time. So I'll get to that in a sec, but when you're talking about like purely the artistic way that you write a score that supports a piece of media, that's sort of something that transcends the actual medium that you're doing. You know, you're responding to visual on screen. It's making you feel a certain way and suggests a certain thing and say, okay, I see what this needs. It needs these instruments and these kinds of melodies and this feeling. So the actual art of composing for the two things is not dissimilar, really. But then in the mechanical differences of it, Broadway shows have tons of lyrics, obviously. And so when you're working with a song versus a piece of underscoring, it's a slightly different thing. So there's that. And then, of course, in video games, the difference being that, like, in a Broadway show or a piece of traditional media, the amount of time that music is going to take is completely locked in. That's not going to change. And in video games, the gamer, the actual player, is functioning as the film editor or, you know, the arranger of the game, so, you know, so to speak, where the music has to react to their actions in real time. And so you have the composing challenge there is you have to think more structurally, like, what can I do that will allow the player to essentially orchestrate this music with their actions? And so that's like a different way. But there have been a lot of like, contemporary classical composing techniques called like aleatoric techniques or chance music, where composers in the early part of the 20th century were experimenting with using a different set of input like parameters that wasn't musical to create composition. And so, you know, there were things where it's like you take 12 notes and you rip them up and you throw them on the floor, and then whatever order you pick them up in, that's your melody, and you have to work with that. Like, that was a composing technique, you know, or things like that, or things where it's like this composition happens in real time based on like, okay, this instrument's going to loop, and then I'm going to conduct in a different time signature over here, and then on the cue of the composer, like, you're going to bring in this. So like interactive music had its seeds in like contemporary classical already, and so there's just like, you know, there's a lot of overlap in all these various kinds of composing.
And so what would you say is the coolest experience you've had in your career so far? Because you've done a lot across the board. What would you say is the hands down like wow moment for you? What's been the coolest thing that's happened?
There have been a couple. I mean, I got to be the music director of a late night show on NBC for like 9 episodes, which was really cool, and composed a bunch of music for that. And like, you know, shooting a TV show was very cool, and having a live audience and being this house band was really awesome. Conducting at Carnegie Hall is pretty, you know, legendary.
Major.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty legendary. The first time I heard my music performed in a Broadway theater was pretty memorable. I'm trying to think, you know, the first time I like heard the Boston Pops play an arrangement of mine, it was pretty cool. There's lots of little things that come to mind, you know.
I want to talk. We have a couple more minutes here. I want to talk about two projects that you had during quarantine. One were the KK sessions. Did that come to mind because of how big Animal Crossing became during COVID? Because it was, I mean, it's still pretty big, but when COVID first hit, that was, I mean, I had it. I'm sure anyone that had a Switch owned it. So did that,
yeah,
where
exactly.
that came from?
Yeah, it's totally where it came from. I mean, like we were playing it. Me and my girlfriend were playing it every single day. And, you know, so. And I had played Animal Crossings in the past, and so I was aware of like KK Slider, and I always thought it was really cool. Like I remember I think I was 10 when the first one came out. I was like, oh, I got to get all the KK songs. I think that's so awesome. That's always been something that has been a really cool aspect of that game to me. And so it was like hearing those songs over and over, and like hearing the KK songs and being like, oh, these songs are just so good, and I think that we can't go back to the studio, and so I should find a way to like continue to record some stuff and get some stuff out there, and this seems like the perfect little package.
Was that with the band, or did you do, I know you played, 270,000 instruments, so is that something like you did yourself, or did you get the band together to do that?
Yeah, it's sort of like what we've been doing now. It was remote. I played guitar and bass, and then I got the drummer to record from home, and like got the horn players to record from home. It was the band. Everyone was just recording from home.
And the other one I want to talk about is you did Lifelight from Super Smash Brothers, and you had 664 musicians enter into this. They submitted their part of it, and then you put it together. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that is not only such a cool thing, but just had to have been, first of all, cool, hard experience, whatever it is. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I had the idea because I saw that a lot of people were sort of doing similar things where it was like, let's do a virtual choir since we can't, this was a very popular thing to do at the beginning of quarantine. And I was like, oh, that's such a cool way to like stay together in like such a hard time. And I was like, I want to give back to like all these fans, I want to connect with all these fans who have been like listening so faithfully. And like, I know a lot of my fans are like music students who are at schools and can no longer play their instruments with people, which is so sad. And so I just was like, I should do this and pick a piece of video game music that everyone really loves and make it a community project, and I was sort of expecting maybe like 80 or 90 people to submit, and I was pretty overwhelmed when I started seeing my Google Doc filling up with like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names. It was a very cool thing, and what's really cool about it is the experience of doing it for people is the exact same experience that you would have as a professional. So I like to think that it was a cool way for people to like, feel like this is what it is to be a professional musician nowadays. And not a lot of people get an opportunity to like be presented to record a thing like that. And a lot of people, it was really fun. Seemed really fun for everybody. Everyone reacted really positively. And, it was my pleasure to foot the bill to give fans of the 8-Bit Big Band the opportunity to play with us,
It's like being a fan of a thing, and then the composer comes out and says, hey, you want to be a part of the band?
Yeah,
I'm sure people are like, yes. Yeah, of course I want to be a part of the band. I'll do whatever I have to do it. So if people are looking for the 8-Bit Big Band, where can they find it?
We're super active on social media, Instagram, 8-Bit Big Band, Twitter, 8-Bit Big Band. Our YouTube channel is like obviously our flagship. It has all of our videos, in-studio videos, the 8-Bit Big Band on YouTube. I have a ton more videos I'm going to be posting in the next few months leading up to the third album. Also, all of our albums are available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Bandcamp, whatever your listening streaming service of choice is. We're up there, I think. So anywhere, I'm happy to connect with anybody or answer any questions about the band if people want to DM us on Instagram. Instagram's the thing I check the most. We're on Facebook too, but I'm less active on there.
I think that's how it's gone. It's gone from, Facebook was big a couple of years ago. Now it's very big on Instagram. A lot of people kind of went away from that, but they bought that, so I don't think they care anyway.
They don't give a shit. Yeah. And also a lot of people are. People have been like, "Hey, is the 8-Bit Big Band going to get a TikTok?" But I just don't. I don't know if I'm cool enough. I don't know. The thought of managing, yet another social media to me is like.
It's funny because we think the same thing. Like I say all the time, should we get a TikTok? And we got two youngins here that know what's going on. A couple of us have no idea what's going on because we've never used it. We're not on it. We were just like, I don't know how it works. I don't know how it goes. But
what would I do? It's so funny actually. When Vine was a thing, I low key was like on track to become a Vine thing. So like I posted this one video that got like really viral, and all of a sudden I had like 50,000 Vine followers. Like after one video of me playing a bunch of instruments like in a row that was looping. So I started putting out all these looping videos and was like, oh, Vine is so cool. Not even 3 weeks later, Vine shut down.
Yeah, it's crazy. Some people went on and did great with like after Vine.
I missed
but then
the boat.
some people just, yeah, exactly. They just missed it. They just didn't move on to something else. And then some people, the worst ones, were the ones that moved on to Facebook, which is also now dead.
Yeah,
Like,
right,
they've been the
exactly.
2 dead ones now.
Right.
Backwards Compatible comes out January 8th. You can also catch them at on a virtual show, which takes place at Sony Hall December 10th. And now it's 8 p.m. everywhere. So is it going to be 8 p.m. live in each time zone, or are you going to replay the first one that you do?
We're gonna replay. So if you can buy whatever time zone you want. So if you're in Japan and you're like, no, I want to really see them do it live, you can buy a ticket for New York at 8 p.m. and we will be performing live. But once that happens, it will automatically be rebroadcast at 4 other time slots, which correspond to 8 p.m. in the various locations. So it's gonna play at 11 p.m. New York time, so it's 8 p.m. in LA, and then at like 5 in the morning New York time, so it's 8 p.m. in Japan. And you can buy a ticket for any of those 8 p.m. time slots, or buy a ticket for the 8 p.m. New York time slot, and really, we will be doing it absolutely live in that moment.
I do recommend that. Like I said, I've seen you guys a bunch of times. Excellent stuff. Definitely go check that out. That's December 10th. They're going to be doing live at Sony Hall. You can get tickets on their Instagram. They have a link, their website. Hopefully Sony Hall is on page 2, and they put it on their website. So anywhere you want to go, look up the Big Band and get on that. Thank you for joining us. It's always great talking to you.
Yeah, likewise.
All right, we'll be right back. So, Ray, I just got to bring up, during that first interview, you kind of died, huh? Died a little bit. For people listening, you may not know what's going on. For people watching, you probably know what happened. She disappeared for a little bit there.
Something came up from inside of me and grabbed me by the throat. I just went from perfectly fine to dying, and I couldn't get myself far enough off screen or off mic.
It was legitimately, I was looking down, I was doing the interview, and I looked at my producer, and he had the widest eyes I've ever seen staring straight at her. I looked up, I'm like, oh, wow, I don't know what's going on, but she must have gotten sick or something, but we pushed through.
We got it.
We pushed through.
We made it work.
We had both of our great guests, and we pushed through to the end. We got through it all. So,
and if you made it past that point, you might have died when Chris blew his ocarina.
Ocarina. I wasn't the only one that did it. We both did it.
But okay, his was nice and low down, and you went for
that's because he's a musician.
Yeah, his was nice.
I just own an ocarina. He owns it because he could actually play music. I own it because it was $10 on Amazon and I wanted one. That's the difference between the two of us in this situation.
So I'll just apologize on Chris's behalf. If
I'm
anyone
not
was listening with headphones, if you can still hear, we are sorry from all of us here at Offstage.
I ain't apologizing. That was magic. That was
beauty.
That was magic you listened to. So you got December 10th. I've said it a bunch of times now. December 10th.
8 p.m.
8-Bit Big Band is having a virtual show at 8 p.m. at any time.
All time zones.
Eastern,
Tokyo,
Central,
Mountain, Pacific, all of them.
If you're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, it's 8 p.m. So they're doing it 8 p.m. every single time. So tickets are online. You can go to their website, 8-Bit Big Band. You can go to their Instagram. It's there. We still have no confirmation on if it's on Sony Hall's website, but it should be there. It makes sense.
We hope it is.
You would think they'd promote a show that they're doing. It's completely virtual, so definitely go check that out. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. So definitely go check that out. And FamilyJules is on YouTube and on Instagram and Twitter, FamilyJules.
And Twitch.
And Twitch. And that's another one. Go check him out on Twitch. I did watch one of his videos the other day. it was pretty sweet.
We're gonna have to sit down and watch that Mario compilation together.
I am very excited to listen to that. I really want to listen to that. That sounds off. That the history of Mario through music. That you just spoke my language right there. So Ray, if they're looking for us, they're looking for Offstage Radio. Where are they going? Where are people going to find us?
Spokane, Washington.
But where are they going? I guess, yeah.
You can find
knock
us
on every door in Spokane, Washington. Eventually, you're going to find the show. But where are you going to find us online?
You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You
Yep.
can find us on Facebook if that's where you are. But we're pretty much on Instagram and Twitter.
Off.stage.
Media.
Media. Instagram. Offstage Radio on Twitter, I'm pretty sure.
And I think it's that on
Offstage Radio or Media on Facebook.
Facebook.
And everything's running now. For the first time in the history of the show, everything's up and running. We have Twitter's going, Facebook's getting posts, and Instagram.
It's
So if
all
you go
thanks to our
there,
producers.
it's our producers. Thank you, producers. I guess.
You're doing great.
Thanks,
Don't
producers.
listen
But
to
you know who
Chris.
the real stars are. You know who the real stars are. Ray.
Just me, not
Got-
you. Just me.
Guys and gals, thank you for joining us again. Remember to mask up. I shouldn't have to even say that. Remember to mask up while you're out there because that wave is coming through harsh. So make sure you mask up. See you guys later. Join us next time. Listen to any ones you haven't yet. I mean, you're behind the 8 ball right now. We have 4 episodes before this one alone. So go check that out, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye. Finger guns.
Thanks. Stay safe, guys.